better, he says. Challenge yourself to become a better modeler, he says. Sounds like a bunch of baloney. Why do I even listen to myself? What are we doing? There's been some issues over the last few op sessions, specifically with the CP gene switch. And had a couple of derailments where trains coming off of or out of the yard and onto the main to Canandaigua have been derailing pretty regularly right at the switch. And one of the things that I regretted almost immediately after putting in that track plan was using as many number 4s overall as I did switch-wise, but specifically having a number 4 there where you're coming off of a number 4 into the yard, off the yard ladder, and then another number 4 in quick succession off onto the main to Canandaigua and onto the at CP Gene. So I spent a little bit of time over the last couple of days working on a revised track plan. I'm pretty happy with the way it looks, and now we're underway, getting it taken care of before the next big op session in the middle of September. So you can follow along with me as I work on this project. All right, so here's a look at the track plan as of now. As you can see, the big idea here is that we're keeping the industry tracks themselves the same, but it's kind of the area around it that's going to be changing the most. The biggest thing is, as I mentioned in the intro, the switch coming off the main line onto the peninsula is now going to be a number 6 switch, which should offer a little bit more reliability as far as that's concerned. And then as we're getting into the industries themselves, we've also separated the main line pretty significantly from the industries themselves. The main line goes from the track that all the industries were coming off of to being on the outside of those tracks, which offers a little bit more reliability as far as trains coming to Canandaigua are concerned. They can kind of bypass all of these turnouts that could potentially pose an issue with derailments if anybody accidentally leaves them lying the wrong way or anything like that. So a little bit more reliability as far as that's concerned. We've also now lengthened the length of the overall siding, which should help with the Geneva yard job that comes out to the industrial complex, the switch. It'll help them have a little bit more room to run around their train and everything like that. No longer will you need to just put particular cars in the siding in order to run around them. Instead, you have a full-length main, which should be able to hold your entire train if you're the Geneva yard job out here. So a lot of improvements here. It does rely on a couple of curved turnouts, which is, they're not my favorite turnouts in the world just because they're not really all that prototypical, but I seem to have good luck with them other places as far as reliability is concerned, so I'm not super concerned about that side of things. There are going to end up being a couple of little S-curves on the kind of right-hand side of what you're seeing here, coming into the industry lead, and then on the main itself. That's just to accommodate a wider curve coming off the main and onto the peninsula itself, just so that we can kind of keep everything as reliable as possible. The big S-curve into the siding itself is still going to be 30-degree radius, so it's relatively wide. I'm pretty confident that things should work the way that they're supposed to. So this is a look at the track plan, like I said, and let's get back to work. All right, so now that you guys have seen the track plan, you can kind of get a better idea of what all needs to happen here. The goal is, as I might have said, leave the right-of-way from this switch into both of these industries alone, other than pulling out this turnout for the runaround. And then all the way down to here stays untouched. So the whole industry sections themselves will stay the same. Those are all working pretty darn well. I'm happy with how all of that is performing. These tracks right here into the diamond were a pain in the neck, so one of my goals was to specifically make sure that I was not touching all of that trackage, but I think this new track plan is going to help me pretty significantly as far as enhancing operations. We're going to have a longer runaround, or actually technically main line, because the main's going to come out to here now, and all of the industry tracks will actually be on the siding. So that's a whole nother way that we should hopefully be making things a little bit more reliable. The mainline curve coming out of the switch is actually going to be a wider radius now. It's about 24. This is the tightest radius on the whole layout, and we're going to at least get it out to, I believe in the track plan I either have it as 26 or 28. So it's getting widened by a good margin. On the other side, we are actually going down radius wise. It is a 30 currently, but it's going to be going down to, I believe, 28 on that side as well. So the first step we have to do is pull out all the track that we don't need, and then I'm going to kind of just sort of get an idea of what everything's going to look like by tracing it out. I don't have the switches ordered just yet, just because I do want to make sure by looking at everything traced out that it seems like it's going to make sense before I go ahead and commit and order, a bunch of costly switches. And of course, I'm completely out of flex track, so got to order more flex track, another number 6 switch, and another curved turnout to make all of this work. So got our work ahead of us, but I should have plenty of time to get this done, and more importantly, get it very thoroughly tested before the NMRA convention is here in Rochester in the middle of September, and I've got a bunch of operators at my house. So let's get cracking. So there's no turning back now, huh? I think since it's kind of the low-hanging fruit of the whole situation, I'm going to go ahead and get the little piece of track here reinstalled. That way it's just one less thing to do later. Alright, so we've started to add back instead of deconstruct here. We've got the cork down here on the north side of the complex, and starting to kind of take shape a little bit. We've got our track line down here so that I know right where the straightaway is. Can't really see it very well, but it's there, and we'll be able to kind of keep on putting down more cork as this stuff dries, and I can move my finite amount of tacks down the line. And then as soon as we get the rest of the track work components, we'll be good to start laying track. Alright, so we've now got all of our cork cut at least, and test fit. Some of it's still drying in here. You'll notice I did something a little bit different here compared to the rest of the layout, and not sure if it'll work out, but it's something worth at least trying. I've gone ahead and used sheet cork for a lot of the different area here on the Geneva Industrial Complex area of the layout. Basically, the idea behind this is a lot of the trackage on this section of the railroad is not very elevated compared to what you would see elsewhere. Kind of like what you see over here, where there's some depth between the top of the track and ground level. A lot of the track is actually really at ground level for the most part on the Auburn Road, and this is just my effort to kind of portray that a little bit better. The sheet cork is actually a little bit thinner than the Midwest cork, not to mention a little bit cheaper too, which is nice, but it's allowing me to kind of get the track level down a little lower, and if I like it, it's something I can start to use other places. Unfortunately, it's a little late to do the rest of the industrial complex this way, just because I don't want to redo the rest of the track. But if I like the way it looks, then I'll know for future reference. And the second way in which it's nice is, as I'm doing some really complicated things here on this section of the layout with a curved turnout and then a very wide S-curve eventually coming off of the inside track and back into the Geneva Industrial Complex, and then a nice straight track for the main line. It's allowing me to make sure that I've got coverage underneath the track no matter what in this particular area, where again, I'm not looking to have an elevated look for the track, so I might as well just have a sheet of cork down so that I don't have to worry about fitting very specific pieces of cork underneath the turnouts and everything like that. Well, on top of the realignment project on the Geneva Industrial Complex that we've been working on, this is also a very painful project that's been going on at the same time. This is, of course, the Hemrod junction switch. It was completely scenicked in as of the last layout update, as you probably saw, and started having some issues with it in the op session that I had immediately following it, conveniently. And got to the point where I was troubleshooting the switch that was installed here, which of course was a number 4, which was not a smart choice to begin with. But as I was troubleshooting, I unfortunately roughed the switch up a little too much and busted the rail out of its basically plastic tie plates to the point where I couldn't get it back in. So that number 4 switch had to come out. And when it did, I decided, well, I better start thinking about what I can do to make this a more reliable turnout overall. The number 4 clearly was a bit of an issue running big 6 axles over top of it. And so we've gone to a number 6. Unfortunately, did not have room to go to a number 8, but number 6 fit with some modification. The number 6 is actually The main route actually usually comes out a little bit further, but because the grade here on the Himrod Junction starts directly after the turnout, I cut that down as far as I could safely in order to get that to be as far back as possible so that it's not bent over the grade and the grade can start naturally as it did, with the number 4 switch installed as well. The diverging route, which is actually technically the main line, and again, not the greatest planning on my part, but you'll learn things. The diverging route is now a way less sharp angle coming off the Corning secondary. Well, coming through Himrod Junction on the Corning secondary, and the switch itself obviously a lot more 6-axle friendly, a lot more longer locomotive wheelbase in general, more friendly for them. So hopefully it'll be worth having to tear out such a labor of love this scenery was. And as you can see, we've now got a lot more work to do in order to get it back to where it was. All this track has to be painted, ties weathered, and then reballasted, and then we'll be right back to where we were. But don't ever let anybody say I'm not dedicated to operations, because this hurt to pull that number 4 out and pull out this amount of scenery in order to redo this section. But I did it because operations. This layout. The goal of this layout is not just to be a gorgeous display layout. It's meant to be operated. It's meant to be operated reliably. And when things happen, like that turnout, giving me problems, the number 4, I'm gonna make changes where I need to, and this was one of them. So. All right, so we're starting to get towards the home stretch as far as the new track work is concerned. We've got the main almost all the way in. Just need to, once this is dry, pull this piece out and recut a short bridge piece between here and the turnout, because I don't know what happened, but somehow I ended up just like a 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/8 of an inch short. So we're going to let this all dry in place before we start monkeying with that, though. Yeah, it's going well. That's it for the main line. And then all we have to do is put in our little S-curve off the interior inside of the turnout and run it into the siding here. And then all the track work will be done. In addition to that, we've also got all of the track work done, and we've been testing at least the outside portion of the number 6 turnout here. That's working spectacularly. We're also testing, as we speak actually, the new number 6 that's in at Himrod Junction for the main route, and it's going pretty well. I've been running this train for probably about 45 minutes, and no derailments at either of these switches. Do have definitely some dirty track that needs to be cleaned up because it keeps stopping other places, but that's okay. That's no big deal. As long as these turnouts, which were the problem turnouts, are working properly now, I'm going to be happy about it and leave well enough alone. So I got a little bit more testing I want to do. I want to run everything back through the other way for about 45 minutes, make sure I don't have any issues going the opposite way, and then I'll kind of just run back and forth on the diverging route, which is technically actually the main line, going into Gang Mills Yard and back. I'll probably do that 15 to 20 times just to make sure that there's absolutely no issues there, make sure that the track works bulletproof. So we'll check back once that's done. Well, there you have it, everybody. The first train back into the Geneva Industrial Complex after track realignment. There's still a little bit of work left to do here. Lots of feeders left to resolder in, but track work's done, and everything seems to be working really great so far. Really happy with how things look, how things are running. Just through the initial test run here. This literally, the clip you saw, is literally the second run of a train into the complex here. So really happy with how things are running so far, and looking forward to getting the feeders dropped and really putting this thing through its paces before the next stop session. So I hope that I've inspired people to not be afraid to make changes when things aren't working out well. This video is kind of another installment in that whole idea of I can do better, and sometimes I can do better does really mean that when you've learned from your mistakes, rip things up and try them again, and usually you'll end up with better results. I'm hoping that's the case here. Again, still got a little bit more testing to do, but overall, very happy with the initial results. So again, that's it, everybody. Thanks for watching, and take care. We'll see you in the next one.